Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Yonit Arthur, and I'm here with David. David has very generously offered to give you guys a little bit of information about what he has gone through with dizziness and about his recovery. So thank you so much, David, for agreeing to do this interview.
No problem at all.
Awesome. So I met David on the Vestibular Disorders Support Group on Facebook, where he posted a wonderful success story for us. So David, I wanted to start by asking you how things got started. Do you know of a specific condition that set things off, or did things come out of nowhere?
So my symptoms began, the dizziness symptoms began August 2019. At that time, I was about 11 months into a graduate program, so I was under immense stress to pass exams, to remain on this course, with quite a substantial pay rise at the end of it, which would be life-changing for my family. Leading up to that time, I think it was March that year, I began breaking out in sort of hives, and I recognised that related to like stress and migraines. It can be a trigger for migraines. And right at the end of July, I had an exam. I actually broke out in the hives the day before. And then it takes it out of you when you've had that reaction. And then about a week into it, my head didn't quite feel right. I just got on with me day to day. And then as the month progressed, it felt like I was walking on pillows. It felt really bad. Again, I didn't freak out because 10 years earlier, I'd had labyrinthitis and it was only a 2-day spell. But I recognised the symptoms and it seemed very familiar. So I read up on it. It says it'll normally, most of the time, it'll pass after 3 weeks. But then as weeks became months, I started to worry how it was affecting me study, because I had another exam coming up in December, and that threw anxiety into the mix. So that's when it all started, and it just didn't seem to subside.
Yeah. So almost as though your body had that recollection of what dizziness felt like from 10 years earlier, and then it just recalled it and started activating it again when you were stressed out.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, the first time around, I think me oldest child, I've got 2 kids, they're 11 and 6 now. My oldest one was just a baby. So I suspect that was probably the stress of having a newborn in the house the first time around, which sort of led to that labyrinthitis. It didn't seem like I was carrying a virus. It was felt physical.
Yeah, it felt familiar, but you don't think retrospectively that there was a medical condition this time that set it off?
No.
Yeah.
I just think it was almost that I was pushing my body too much. It felt like, I mean, even now I've got to sort of manage my screen time. And at that time I was working full time on my tablet. I'm a civil servant, so I work on my laptop or on a computer 40 hours a week. But on top of that, I was spending about 20 hours a week studying as well. And I was pushing my vestibular system, I think. And I think I pushed it too far.
Yeah,
That's what it
was. You had a lot going on. And this happened at the end of 2019. So then you headed straight into the pandemic from there.
Yes, that was so. Yeah, towards the end of 2019, I had a real fight on my hands in terms of studying for my next exam in the December. I could only manage like a couple hours screen time at a time, but I was having to persevere. And then as soon as I got that exam out of the way, I went to see my manager. He says I need a month I need to take the month. So I just took a month off. I just stayed away from tellies, from my phone, spent some time outdoors, and I felt like I got control. I thought, right, what do I need to do? Because it had sort of morphed into more. When I say it's dizziness, I feel like that's a broad explanation.
Yes.
Because it's not so much spinny dizziness. It's like uncomfortable, knowing where your body position is or where your feet are going to land, or I mean, in its infancy, it was turning around too quick, and then it felt like your brain was catching up. But it sort of developed into like an unpleasantness when I had a busy surroundings, photophobia. And then going into the new year, I'd got tinted glass, and I felt like that was the turning point. And then when the pandemic hit, like you said, I had another exam in the March. And just after that exam hit, we went into lockdown.
So you feel like the worst days of and I know the dizziness is really, like you're saying, a catch-all term. Most of the people I work with don't have spinning dizziness at all. They have a lot of the symptoms you described. So you feel like the worst of it was in early 2020, or did you have another?
No, I didn't have another episode. It was more, it was a continuation. It almost felt like it was a mental injury. And then it became a case of, I'm not going to automatically recalibrate my vestibular system and be better. It was a case of facing up to my symptoms and just, when I got into January, if I cast my mind back to the September, I thought, right, I feel that tiny bit better. And in that period, I tried to just get on and do the things I would normally do. It sort of reached a boiling point. It was mid-November. That was probably at my worst, because I was meant to be going away on a stag do abroad for a few days, and I was still going to go ahead and do it. I was still shopping, even though I didn't want to go. And then I went into the city centre shopping, and it reached it was 3 weeks before my exam. I was going away, but I didn't feel prepared for it. I was meant to be flying the next day, and I had a panic attack. It just became too much. And I think it was at that moment I thought, right, I went to the hospital. Like the next day, my head was all, I had headaches all over my head. And that's when I sort of learned to say no. I said, if someone says, how we will take the kids here, no, I don't feel up to it. And getting the balance between being willing to say no, but also taking the time to face up to your symptoms, it's a fine balance in that, because you don't want to shy away from everything. You need to try and have some form of life, but at the same time, you're going to have bad days, and you need to be willing to say no.
Oh, David, that is such a wise thing you just said, because just like you're saying, on one hand, you want to continue with your daily routine. You don't want to stop yourself, but there's a very interesting phenomenon that I see with patients of mine, that they're helpers. They're people who want to say yes to everything. They want to be there for other people, but then they put themselves last, and they don't feel comfortable setting those boundaries. So that stress turns inward on themselves.
Absolutely. And I think, going back to the cause of my problem in the first place, pushing my vestibular system beyond its capabilities, I think you can do that in your day to day. I've still got some form of symptoms. It crosses my mind every day that I don't feel exactly the way I used to feel. It's a new normal for me, but at the same time, I can tolerate it. It's just a nuisance. It's not something I consider when I'm deciding whether to do something or not. But at the same time, if someone asks us to do 12 hours work off the bounce looking at a screen, and then I've got to do something, I'll just have to say, no, that's too much. It might have a negative impact on us. So that's where I'm at right now.
So you feel like you're better at reading your body's signals now. You feel like you're better at recognizing when the stress is just going to be, it's going to be too much. And almost like this episode of dizziness put you in touch with those boundaries, or those limitations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Not limitations is the wrong word, but boundaries.
I've always been wanting to push myself, whether it's exercising, like pushing through injuries, or whether it's taking on too much. It's probably always been a trait of mine to do that. So if anything, what I went through is sort of learned is to be mindful of what I'm capable of, and limiting myself, I suppose.
Yeah. Or put the boundaries down where it's appropriate. Yeah.
Yeah.
So take me, let's see if you can take me back to what at the worst time. So you said November was when you were having the hardest time and you had the panic attack.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about what your daily life was like at that time in terms of your symptoms? What were you experiencing from morning till evening?
Torture. It was horrendous. I had this constant, like failing my exam wasn't an option, delaying it wasn't an option in my mind. Because my symptoms were new, I was sort of fighting back against it, and I didn't want it to impact my progression on the graduate program. I had this exam in 3 weeks' time. For prior exams, I would easily say I was studying 30, 40 hours a week. Whereas with this one, on my study days, I could only do 2 hours, and it was frustrating us. Every time I was trying to read something, I was having to try and ignore the symptoms of looking at the screen, which was really unpleasant. And that's still to this day something. The first thing I do when I turn a screen on is turn the brightness down, turn the contrast down. Off I'm on my phone, I've got the thing on. So yeah, so going back to your question, at that time it was getting up in the morning. The first thing that crosses my mind: do I feel better? Do I feel worse? It was the first thing. When I step out of bed, how do I feel? It's almost like a right, get yourself up, get your clothes on, get the kids' breakfast made, and just get the day going. I'd avoid screens at all costs for that first hour of the day, just sort of getting the kids off to school. And then I'd come back, either go to work, or because I was on a graduate program, you get afforded study days and you do tutorials from home. So depending on what it is, sometimes I'd go in the office. I was wearing a cap in the office to keep the lights from above us off me head, off me, like out me line of sight, just try and minimize the surroundings that were impacting me visual. And then as soon as I got in the November, as soon as I would get home from work, if I was in the office, I would go and lie in bed for an hour, just in the darkness, just sort of calm everything down. And then I'd just try and put the symptoms to one side for a bit and try and be normal around the kids for a bit, spend a bit of time with them, have some tea. And then it was a case of just listening to music or something once the kids were sorted. Just anything where I'm not using my eyes, basically.
So lots of visual stuff for you, lots of visual symptoms for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what about, were you able to get out and socialize, or was that just out of the question?
No. Like I say, I was meant to be going on a stag do. So that I ended up just not going. Which was probably my first big decision to say no. No, socialising was out of the question. I'd take the kids to my mum's sometimes, and then spend some time there, spend time with family. But other than I'd take the kids out, but again, it was heading into the winter, so it wasn't really a case of going to parks. They would maybe want to go to soft plays. They could go off and do their own thing in the soft plays, so I could just sit there. And that wouldn't be too bad. No worse than being in the house. But other than that, no socialising.
Yeah. So almost like your world got very small, like you were in this tunnel that was just closing in. So contrast that for me, just so the people who are watching this who are going through what you went through at that time, because most of them are at that point right now. What's your life like now? What's different about it?
Well, just this. Well, I'll describe what I've been up to this weekend, I suppose. I'll go back a couple of days earlier. So I actually took Thursday and Friday off last week to get some decorating done before Christmas. So I've just wallpapered me chimney breast there.
Yeah, nice. Wow. So were you up on a ladder and using a hammer and doing all this stuff yourself?
Didn't need to use a hammer. No, I just had a step ladder. Yeah, just the wallpapering.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
So
was
you were
doing that
up
on the.
looking up and on a ladder,
Yeah.
balancing on a
Oh yeah,
ladder.
absolutely. Yeah, I was on a step ladder.
Nice.
Obviously, you're stretching up. You need to get the lines right and all the rest of it. Yeah, getting down and didn't really give it much thought. Like falling off, I suppose. And again, it's strange, but doing stuff like that, I've got the telly off, I've got the music on, so it's no screen time, and I don't mind doing things like that when they were an absolute chore beforehand. I found myself getting lost on my phone, like looking at football, looking at news and all the rest of it, whereas I just don't do that now. So yeah, that was on the Thursday. And over the weekend, what did I do on Friday? We went Christmas shopping. So went around a few toy shops, got some clothes in for the kids. Friday night, had a few drinks, watched a film. On the Saturday, had a quiet day. We had family around. And then yesterday we took the kids to, it's like a winter wonderland, it's called, with all the rides, and it's got all
The lights.
almost like a Bavarian bar and stuff like that. Yeah. So we took the kids there on the Sunday. And then this morning I'm off again today. I took today and tomorrow up as well. I've got a bit of leave to use before the end of the year. So this morning, dropped the kids off at school, went to the gym, took some things down the tip, some rubbish and whatnot, and then just prepared for today for the call with you.
So it sounds like normal life. I mean, you're basically back to normal life. Yeah. And I mean, to have, just based on what you're telling me in November, that was just almost inconceivable that you would end up back being able to do these things. So the biggest question I think that I have, and that other people who are watching this are going to have, is what was the turning point? What changed in you, and what changed on the outside that helped you start to recover?
I think it was focusing on me, be willing to say no, what's best for me, what's best for my recovery. Like I say, the first thing I did when I got that I was trapped in that period in November because I had an exam, I had to prepare for it, there was no getting around it. The second I got out of that exam, my manager was aware of my symptoms, he was very supportive. I went to see him and I said, I need to take some time. I then arranged to see the doctor. I got a month's sick note and I was off. I knew I was away from everything and I had no commitments coming up other than my friend's wedding on the 28th of December of that year. So I knew I had 3.5 weeks of no commitments. In that time, I went to see an optician. I got some tinted prescription glasses. Again, just to I thought, right, well, I'm putting up with these symptoms. How can I take the edge off a little bit? And they did help, the tinted glasses. And then the turn of the year, I took a back step because I still tried to exercise throughout all that as well. The turn of the year, it's hard because it's a series of things I've found. That was the turning point. I felt like I got a little bit of control back just after I took that exam and got through it. And then in the January, I decided, right, I'm gonna not commit to anything. I'm going to spend the time managed. In the January, I found that I could do a little bit more study in one sitting. I could do up to 4 or 5 hours, whereas beforehand it was only 2 hours. So that was my first realization that I had made some improvement. At that stage, I knew it just wasn't going to be a case of getting up and being better. It was going to be a gradual process. For me personally, I do know some people do just miraculously feel better, but I didn't think that was going to be me. Everything went smooth up to the next exam. There was no panic, there was no anxiety, and then again I felt like I've sort of got this, I've got a handle on it a little bit. It was still, at that stage, it was still teetering on torturous, but it felt like I was controlling it a little bit better. And then obviously lockdown hit. And then when lockdown hit, I started exercising a little bit more because I knew the next exam was going to be postponed for a while. So I started looking at exercise in the house. And then rather than just focusing on weights, I started doing cardio, which I hadn't done much of lately. And I started getting out on my bike. So I started going on my bike in the March, April time. And I've been going on my bike ever since. And I feel like getting out on my bike in the early stages again, when I was going out on my bike, it was unpleasant. But now I enjoy going on my bike. It's sort of a break from everything. And I feel like when I push myself physically and exercise, things, when I'm not pushing myself physically, my symptoms don't quite feel as bad. From that point on, it's just been what I also did, when you do your research, I've seen that a magnesium deficiency can also contribute to migraines. So I start taking vitamin C, vitamin D, magnesium, zinc. I was eating better, getting lots of fruit and vegetables, anything to support my body's improvement. When the summer landed, I got sun loungers again to get out of the house, and I was in the garden all the time. I've never had a bit of suntan because of lockdown, to be honest.
So for you, I mean, it sounds like there was a realization, like you said, that the stress was really what set this off, and that was the turning point. Then, as you said, excuse me, you felt like, okay, this is stress related, so this is something I'm going to have to manage through managing stress in my body, and you created a plan for yourself. So at some point you stopped feeling like there's something horribly wrong with me and this is long-lasting labyrinthitis and I'm never going to get better. There was a turning point where you were no longer feeling that way. You said, this is stress. This is my body's response to stress. And if I manage the stress better through a combination of rest, pushing myself, and taking better care of myself, I can get through this.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think getting out on my bike, you can't underestimate the power of endorphins from good exercise as well. The stress that releases. I feel completely different. It gets to the point now, like I exercise every day. If I go 2 days without exercising, it drives us nuts. So, and that's can't underestimate how good that is. And because I've had knee injuries in the past, so it was always going to be low impact. But I've even managed to get out for a few runs as well. And again, just overcoming them hurdles and just being able to tell yourself that you can do things. And again, just it's sort of when you return to something you haven't done for a while, and you can map that improvement again. It gives you hope that you're on the right track. You can sort of see, it's going to take a while, but between your worst symptoms and being a picture of health and being at your best, you're gonna reach a point even halfway through where you're like, it becomes less torture and it becomes more of a nuisance that you have to sort of carry with you.
Yeah. So for you, you identified that stress point as being the exam, that was the part that pushed you over the edge. And some of my patients have trouble finding that point. They don't have a finger on that pulse yet. Sometimes it takes time to figure that out. And sometimes it's even a stressor that happened many years ago, but now is just built up and is coming back to bite them. So what advice do you have, regardless of whether someone can identify the stressor or not? What advice do you have for people who are going through what you've gone through?
Whether you can identify the particular stressor or not, I think it's important to manage the stressors that you're exposed to, I suppose. Knowing your own limitations, just sit and take 5 minutes. I know it's hard to sort of give things thought when you're in the depths of this, but if you just try and give it some thought about what's your lifestyle like, what's good for my progress, what's bad for my progress, what can I remove from my lifestyle, and what can I add to my lifestyle? You need to make decisions that are good for you, because if not, your progress is going to be slower. I mean, for me personally, I was quite a laid back person before this landed, but I just put myself under a lot of stress. And again, me personally, I'm someone that can reflect. I've studied psychology, and from that point on, I can't procrastinate. I can't lie to myself. So if I'm not doing something that's good for us and it's going to have a negative impact, I'm going to reflect on that and I'm going to do something about it.
Yeah. Yes. Such great advice. Oh, David, thank you so, so much. Did you have anything else that you wanted to share about your journey or advice for anyone watching this, or words of wisdom before we finish?
I don't know if the words of wisdom, but one of the things in the early stages that really affected me personally was the fact I didn't think I would ever have true enjoyment of anything in my life again, and it became quickly about tolerating it and providing for my family. If you do the right things and you just try and look for them little signs of improvement, that should give you hope that you're on the right track. This doesn't have to be something that you suffer with for the rest of your life. If you speak with your doctor, if you do vestibular rehabilitation therapy, and even if you eat right, or if you take the right vitamins, there's things that you can do to help your body get better, and there's things you can do to accelerate that progress. And in time, you will begin to you will be able to find happiness in things that you're doing as well. So I can't stress enough that you can still have a life. It's difficult when you're in the depths of it. Personally, I think I was in the depths of it. Although although my turning point was about 4 months in, I would still describe my symptoms as torturous for that first 12 months. And it was only towards, I suppose, the back end of 2020 when it was sort of less torturous and more a different descriptor, like a bad nuisance. So there is hope. You've just got to you've just got to try your best to get through it.
Oh, David, thank you so, so much. And thank you again so much for volunteering and sharing your time. It sounds like you've got a full plate nowadays. So I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. Thank you so, so
Absolutely
much.
no problem. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.